All right, so for all you guys that stuck around because you're waiting for that final bit of advice, the trick to getting ripped, and remember, it's gonna be something that you're not gonna expect. Hey guys, Mark McKilley with Live Anabolic, and today I have a fantastic set of exercises for beginners out there. And guess what? Every single exercise I show you today requires nothing more than a set of $25 bands. All right, resistance bands are literally the cheapest piece of exercise equipment in the world. All right, so there is no excuse why you guys can't get in shape at home, especially you beginners. And the really cool thing about these bands are you order them on Amazon, they're inexpensive, they show up within a day or two, and then finally for you guys that are just constantly road warriors, you're traveling, I don't care whether it's car or airplane, these things go in your suitcase. So everything I show you today, you can do on the road traveling in a motel, all right? So no excuse, guys. And then the other thing, for all you beginners watching right now, you better stick around, all right, because after I show you all 7 exercises, I'm gonna tell you the single most important thing that you have to do to getting fit and looking ripped. And guys, it's not gonna be what you think. All right, so the very first exercise today is something called a rear delt fly. So we got our shoulders, our delts, all right? Now, most people don't realize there's actually 3 distinct muscle groups that make up our shoulders. So we got the front, the side, the laterals, and then the rear, okay? That's the posterior. And this exercise is gonna focus on the rear part of our shoulder. And that is a muscle that very, very few guys actually target and hit because it is hard to get to. And the thing is they neglect it. All right, so when you neglect part of a muscle group, it doesn't develop properly and it just never looks as big and impressive as it could if you were doing the right kind of exercise. So you see guys doing bench press and all these other kind of overhead, pressing movements. Well, that works for the front part of your shoulder and the lateral part, but it doesn't work the rear, all right? So this is a fantastic exercise for working the rear part of our shoulder. And the other thing is, guys, I love working shoulders, all right? And one of the reasons is because if you have big shoulders, if these things are really massive, it makes you look really wide. And that means even if you're carrying around a little too much body fat down here, it's gonna make your stomach look smaller because you're so wide up here. Remember, everything is relative to one another, all right? So if you have big, giant, wide shoulders, it makes your stomach look smaller no matter what, all right? So, guys, this is not a particularly big muscle group, so you can't use a whole lot of resistance, all right? And then the other thing is, like most exercises that I show you with bands, form is really important, okay? So I have to step away from the door, okay? All right, so I want to preload, all right? So I already have some resistance built in because I'm so far away from the anchor point. And I have the anchor up high, okay? So it's at the top of the door. And then guys, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my elbows back. Now notice I'm saying elbows. I'm not talking about my hands, all right? So I want to try to get my elbows back behind me as far as I can, all right? I don't care where those handles are. I have a slight bend in my elbows, and that bend stays pretty much consistent throughout the full range of motion. And at the top of the movement, which is right here, I want to kind of hold it for just a split second and really feel those muscles contract. And remember, this is not a pulling. I'm not pulling like this, all right? So my hands are out wide and my elbows are out wide and stretching behind me as far as I can. And I like to focus, okay, on the anchor point. That's where I look when I'm doing this. And then the other thing, guys, is because it is kind of an awkward movement, all right? And it's hard to target, all right? It is a small muscle, okay, in the back of your shoulder there. You're really pay attention to focusing your mind, and you can literally just think or look, pretend like you're looking at the back of your shoulder. That's what I do when I'm really doing an exercise really hard and trying to focus. because that mind-muscle connection is way more important than most people realize. And that's where these big guys that are really built and jacked up are exceptional, okay? I see them at the gym working out, and they're not necessarily using a lot of weight, but man, they are really focusing on the movement and the muscle that they're contracting. They're really trying to squeeze the muscle more than just lift the weight. So exercise number 2 is called a face curl. So we're gonna be focusing on our biceps now. And this is another exercise that we're working a relatively small muscle group, so you can't use a whole lot of resistance. You're gonna have to kind of experiment with what is the right amount for you. But remember, if you're gonna err on picking too much resistance or too little, I would much rather you pick too little resistance, because if it's not heavy enough, all right, then you can use better form and you can do more reps and you'll actually get more out of it than if you use too heavy of a band, all right, then your form suffers and you really don't get nearly as much out of the exercise. So face curls now is an exercise where we'll be using both handles, and another thing, guys, it's kind of obvious, but you want to make sure these handles are centered on the anchor. So if one side's a little longer than the other, you're not going to have the same resistance from side to side. So you have to equalize the bands from side to side. Otherwise, one bicep's going to get hit harder than the other. Now, just like all resistance band exercises, I want you to have some pre-tension, all right? So you have to step away from the door or the anchor, okay? So I like to have a nice wide base with my feet here, okay, for my balance. And then I'm gonna hold my arms pretty much straight out in front of me, facing, okay, my arms are pointing at the anchor at the top of the door in this case. And I'm gonna stay nice and still and keep my elbows hopefully in one spot, and I'm just gonna bring the handles straight to my face. All right, hence the name face curl. So guys, this is a bicep movement here. And the key is trying to keep those elbows pretty still and as close to one location as possible. I don't want them flying all over the place and going up and down. All right, so a good way to keep those elbows still is really just to stare, all right? In my case, I'm staring at the anchor, all right? And then I'm just bringing the handle straight basically to my eyeballs or my nose, okay? And then if you want to make it harder, okay, at the top of the movement right here, just hold it, 1,000, 2,000, and then release. Slow, slow, 1,000, 2,000, slow release. So guys, you're going to really start to feel a pump going, okay, in your biceps here. And that is because we're forcing so much blood into that muscle group. And that's only going to happen if you pick enough resistance, yet still do really good form and nice and slow. When you do a slow tempo, you have more time under tension. That muscle is under tension for a much longer period of time. And that's what gives you that great pump. All right, so the third exercise today is called a tricep pushdown. Now, for you beginners out there, all right, tricep, back part of your arm. Almost all beginners like to focus on those biceps because I think that's what's really impressive. But guess what? Your tricep down here, this part, makes up a bigger percentage of your arm than your bicep does. And so that's one of the things I see beginners screw up the most, okay? They don't worry about the muscles they can't see. So you can't see your tricep nearly as well as you can see your bicep. Can't see your back very well either, right? So they focus on their chest and their bicep and nothing else. All right, so we're not gonna do that. I got 7 exercises for you guys today, and we're gonna hit literally every single major muscle group in our body with these 7 exercises. So let me show you the correct form for these push downs. All right, so you gotta get down on your knees for this one, guys. And you want to keep your elbows nice and tucked in, kind of close to your side. And you want to keep them in one place as much as possible. You don't want them kind of moving around, all right? So I like to bend over and I like to look slightly down and forward, okay? And then literally I'm just going to push these handles down to the side of my thighs here and then slowly control them back up to the very beginning. This is the starting point. This is as high as my hands can go. I mean, unless I pull my elbows away. So elbows tucked, one location, press down, control up, press down at the bottom, squeeze. Try to lock your elbows out, all right? So if you lock your elbows and then really squeeze those triceps, you'll get a much better pump, all right? Now you'll notice I'm slightly leaning forward here, guys. I'm not up here, okay? So you have to lean over a little bit to counteract, all right, that resistance trying to pull you up. And it's a natural thing, all right? So leaning slightly forward, I'm looking down and in front of me a little bit, and then I'm really focusing on controlling these handles all the way down and then all the way up, and I'm trying to keep my elbows as close to my side as possible, okay? So guys, I think the tricep push down movement, which is what we're doing there, is the best all around exercise you can do for your tricep. Now there's lots of different ways to hit our triceps. We can change our grips using the exact same movement. So instead of an overhand grip, I can go to an underhand grip and do a tricep push down. That'll hit those triceps from a slightly different angle. But just generally speaking, this exercise is fantastic for your triceps. And remember how I told you at the beginning how inexpensive bands are? When you go to the gym, you do this exercise on one of these big cable pulley machines. Those things cost thousands and thousands of dollars. But tricep push downs with bands, to me, feels almost identical, all right? So instead of a gym membership, for 25 bucks, you can do this at your home, you can do it in the motel room and get the same workout. So exercise number 4, guys, we're going to our lower body, which is a huge muscle group, all right? And that's one of the things I see beginners make a big mistake on, and that is they neglect their legs, all right? How are we gonna do it with bands though, right? So I'm not using an anchor right now. I'm just gonna use my feet as the anchor, all right? So I'm gonna be stepping, okay? And I need to make sure I have a wide enough stance that I'm gonna be able to control my balance, all right? So here we go. Now, I have to get the handles up to my shoulder height. Now there's a couple of different ways. I can put the bands behind my arms, okay? And I can do squats in this position, all right? Or I can bring the handles up where the bands are in front of my arms, okay? Either way is fine. I don't have a preference for you guys. I want you to just experiment and see what works best for you, okay? I don't care about the hand position so much as I care about the form of the squat. So I'm gonna put them behind me, okay? All right? Now my hands aren't gonna really move. The only thing that's gonna move is my hips and my knees. So I'm just gonna basically stick my butt out is the first move of a squat. Look forward and come down and then back up. All right? So guys, if you wanna know how to do the correct form, all right, you don't wanna start bending, all right, with your knees or your hips or anything like that. The best way to keep your back straight is to butt out, all right? Then I just bend my knees and go straight down. So butt out and down. And you'll learn to be able to do it basically all in one motion. So if you can't get the feeling at first, just start with butt out, then down, okay? Butt out, then down, and then I can do it all together, all right, simultaneously, butt out, and I bend at the same time, all right? So, guys, the other thing is, this is an exercise where everybody's gonna be different, okay? Because as we get older, we're gonna get stiff. Some of you guys are gonna have some knee injuries, all right? So I want you to just listen to your body, all right? Which means some people are gonna be able to get really nice and deep, okay? And that's great. I love a big range of motion. And this is about as deep as you need to go. Let me show you guys. When you go to this depth, see how my legs create about a 90-degree angle? So you don't have to go way, way down here, okay? Now for you guys that can't go that deep, that's okay. Just go as deep as you can and stop when your body tells you to, okay? Meaning the pain starts, all right? Or something starts to feel kind of uncomfortable. So if you can only go to there, that's great, all right? I'm fine with that. So to make it more difficult, All right, because if you don't go deep, it's not nearly as difficult, right? So to increase the intensity for you guys that don't have that full range of motion, all right, this is it. Real slow, hold it. 1, 2, 3, up. Real slow, 1, 2, 3, up. So what you're doing is instead of that big range of motion, you're using more time under tension by counting to 3 at the bottom of the movement. And that's really going to engage those muscle fibers in your legs, guys. And I promise you're going to feel it and you're going to thank me. Okay, so today the 5th exercise is another exercise for our shoulder. It's called a lateral delt fly. Now, I love doing lateral raises because we're going to be targeting this big part of your shoulder, the lateral muscle. Remember, there's a front, a lateral, and a rear, all right? So guys, I'm going to step on the band, and remember, you don't even need a wide stance for this particular exercise. The more important thing is that I have the same length of band on both sides here, all right? Because I don't want one side getting more tension than the other. So, you know, I got the same amount of resistance starting off here. My feet, you know, are only about 6 to 8 inches apart, and literally all I have to do now is focus on raising my elbows, all right? So I'm going to bring my elbows up, and those handles are just naturally going to follow, all right? So I'm going to do a few with good form here, all right? And I'm just bringing them up to about shoulder height, okay? And then slowly letting them back down. A little short pause at the top. Controlling that movement, all right, all the way up and down. Now, let me show you an incorrect way. I don't want you guys to raise your hands higher than your elbows, okay? So that puts a lot of stress when you do it. That puts too much stress on your shoulder joints. If you just bring those elbows up and keep your hands no higher than your elbows, you're gonna feel, man, you're gonna feel a great burn in your shoulders, but it's gonna be in the muscle and not messing up your shoulder joints. So, all right. The other thing is you don't need to lock your arms up. So you don't have to do this, okay? So have just kind of a nice natural bend in your elbows. And all I'm doing, my mind muscle connection, is how high can I lift my elbows, all right? That handle's just gonna follow along. Oh, so great exercise for this. And then it also works your traps, this big muscle here behind your neck. It engages that muscle at the same time with your shoulders, and that combination is a killer, guys, for making you look wide and muscular even when you're wearing a shirt. Okay, the 6th exercise, guys, we're going to be targeting our back, all right? It's a real simple, straightforward exercise. It's called rows. Now, lots of different ways to do rows, and man, there's so many great variations of this exercise, but I want to show you what I consider is the most basic, straightforward way to do these. And it's easy to do good form with this particular exercise, and because it's a big muscle, okay, your back has got 17 different groups of muscles, all right? So you're gonna be able to use a fair amount of resistance here, guys. Now, I like to do rows with the anchor down at the bottom of the door, okay? So that's where we're doing it today. There's variations, all right? You don't have to do it down there. You can have the anchor up at the top or at the midpoint, okay? So let's just start with the most basic way to do this. Now, I'm gonna be pulling, all right, and preloading these bands. I'm gonna step away from the door, guys. All right, now another thing is you're gonna need a nice wide stance because it is really pulling me forward, okay? So I'm gonna squat down, okay? This gives me a lot more control over the bands as I pull back. And guys, the key here is focus on getting those elbows back, all right? So it's almost like you're rowing in a boat and you're pulling that oar, okay? Now, I'm not doing a lot of resistance here, all right? But trust me, you guys, after you experiment with this, you're gonna notice that you'll be able to use multiple bands, okay? So this is a really big, strong muscle group. And guys, this is a great compound exercise. So what do I mean by compound? It means I'm using multiple muscle groups and multiple joints, okay, simultaneously. And the cool thing about that is when we do compound exercises and we use all these different muscles at the same time, it puts more stress on your body, which in turn, once again, sends signals to your brain to ramp up production of testosterone and growth hormone and all those other fun hormones that we used to have tons of when we were in our 20s. And then finally, guys, beginners neglect their back, okay? They neglect their triceps and they neglect their back because you can't see them. And when you have a big muscular back, just like shoulders, it makes you look wider up here, which is always going to make your stomach look smaller. Even if you got a little pot belly and you need to lose some extra weight, doing this will make you look more ripped in the stomach, especially when you're wearing a shirt, guys. Fantastic exercise, and do not neglect your back. All right, exercise number 7. Last one for today, guys. What muscle group have we forgotten? Chest. We've hit every other muscle group in our body so far except our chest. And guys, this is going to be a one-arm exercise, which is going to allow you to concentrate and focus a little bit more than if we were doing 2 arms simultaneously. But it does require, I think, more practice, okay, to get the hang of when it comes to balance and coordination. Because anytime you're doing a lopsided exercise of one arm, okay, it's going to want to kind of make you go off balance. Now, the nice thing about this exercise, when I get into it and I start showing you, it's also going to engage your core, okay? And let me show you why. So, single handle here, okay? I got a single band. I just have it looped through the anchor, all right? And just like all the other resistance band exercise, if I'm standing too close, I have no resistance during the first part of the movement. So I have to stand, okay, away from the door or the anchor, all right? You may not have it anchored in a door. You may have this anchored around a pole or a fence post or something, all right? So, remember, I'm not going to be doing this with a straight arm, okay? You don't need to lock your elbows out. I want you to have a slight bend in your elbow and a nice wide stance, okay? This is going to come natural to you after you do it a couple times. And I'm literally going to try to bring this handle all the way across my chest to the other side, all right? And you really have to focus on your core. Now, guys, it's going to happen naturally, okay? Because it's twisting your upper body. Your torso is being twisted this way by the band, but your feet are planted and they're trying to keep your torso from turning, all right? So, and if you want to, guys, you can put your hand on your stomach and it'll help keep you pointing straight ahead, all right? So I don't want you to twist, all right? We're not twisting our hips here. Our hips are going to remain stationary, all right? Put your hand on your stomach and you're going to keep your stomach in one location, all right? So it's just your arm that's going to be coming across your body and you're going to feel it in here. I see a lot of these bodybuilders, so that they can get that mind-muscle connection, they will actually put their fingers right here on their chest and it can feel that muscle and they can move it around here, different parts of your pec, and feel that. So, all right, you do one side, of course, and instead of just rushing to do the other side real quick, you'll notice you're a little out of breath, okay? So give yourself 15-20 seconds to kind of catch your breath before you do the other side. Otherwise, if you're out of breath and then you switch sides, you won't be able to hit the other side with as much intensity, okay? And then you'll be a little lopsided, okay? So these one-arm flies are a really good way to get that mind-muscle connection, all right? And at the same time that we're working our chest, you're working your core. And once again, this is another compound exercise. We're working multiple muscle groups, multiple joints at the same time, and that is great for our hormones, guys. All right, so for all you guys that stuck around because you're waiting for that final bit of advice, the trick to getting ripped, and remember, it's going to be something that you're not going to expect. Your mouth. Your mouth is the key to getting a great physique and being ripped and looking fantastic with your shirt on or off. Now, what the hell does your mouth have to do with all this? Guys, it's the only thing that you have complete control over in your life, okay? What you put in your mouth. Nobody else can force you to eat something that you don't want to eat, all right? You don't have control over your work schedule a lot of times. You'll just run out of time and you won't be able to get your workout in, right? You just can't, all right? There's problems when you're at your family life that you don't have control over. The problems at work you don't have control over. Your investments might not be doing well. The stock market's going down. You don't have control over. But all that said, you can still be careful and only eat good, healthy food. And guys, that is the single thing that's going to do the most for your physique and the quickest. And that is learning what to eat and learning what to avoid. And I guarantee you, you take that advice and you'll be looking absolutely ripped by the end of this year. And guys, remember, it ain't going to happen overnight. This is a marathon. Rest of your life. This is not like a 6-month program, all right? We're just gonna live our lives and continue to do this from now on, okay? And that means you can never give up on yourself and you always have to stick with it.